This is my favorite part of the entire masterclass, creating authenticity for your acting child. In my opinion, this video is more of a life lesson than an acting lesson because this is where you're going to learn how your child is perceived by others, more specifically casting directors, and how they can use that perception for authentic auditions and powerful self-confidence in their life. I first learned about this process through my own acting coach, Sam Christensen, who was a former casting director in Los Angeles in the 1970s and 80s, and most notably was a casting director for the hit TV show MASH, in which he cast close to 80 episodes. During this time, he started to notice a pattern amongst the actors. They would walk in the room and Sam would immediately know their essence and would then be pleasantly surprised with an audition that matched that essence or floored by one that wasn't a match to the actor's authentic personality at all. Those who didn't understand the match of their personality to the character that they were portraying and auditioning for didn't book. And Sam began to realize that many of these actors didn't understand their own essence, what they were born with, and how to use it in acting or even in life. While Sam, sitting across from them as a stranger, saw it as clear as day. So he developed a process and began a workshop that allowed actors to dive deep into their personalities and discover how they were being perceived by others and why. I enrolled in this class close to 15 years ago, and it was life-altering. It was a 4-day intensive, and I came out the other side a changed actor and, more importantly, a changed person. I was provided with hundreds of adjectives to not only better understand myself, but use those same words for my auditions. And I'll explain more of that in a moment. But what Sam did was gave each of us one word that he called our overall myth. Mine was control. And everyone I told about this incredible workshop and what I learned about myself had the same response. You paid money to have someone tell you you were a control freak? I could have told you that for free. And honestly, hearing their responses was another lesson for me. Everyone saw who I was and what I was bringing to the table and just assumed I knew as well, but I didn't. To me, I knew I was organized, authoritative, and I considered myself a leader, having taken on many leadership roles throughout my life and my profession and volunteerism. But I never made the connection that all of those choices that I made were based off of my innate essence of control. I never spent any time getting to know who I was or how others viewed me, why I was making certain decisions in my life, and how I could use that knowledge to improve my acting or my personal and professional relationships. My children laughed and said, yeah, Mom, you can be a little bossy. And instead of me being offended by people calling me a control freak or bossy, I realized through Sam's teachings, those are synonyms of control. And I began to take stock in the full spectrum of my personality and then started to see how those words could be translated into different roles. Being in control as authoritative, organized, and a leader, I could easily play a doctor, a lawyer, a journalist, a mom, a PTA president, all the way to the other end of the spectrum where those words are a little more of a negative connotation, where if I'm bossy, micromanaging, chaotic, or overbearing, I could play a pretentious socialite, a Karen, a bossy CEO, or a ditz, even a drug addict. Because if I own the essence of control, I also own lack of control. And by understanding this technique, I have created a wide spectrum of roles that when I portray those characters, they feel remarkably authentic because I'm leaning into that side of my personality. This will continue to make more sense as we go. Sadly, Sam passed away in 2019, but with the help of his business partner, Ken Cortland, we were able to tweak this process for kids and offer the same workshop. It is amazing to see children step into their true authenticity and to find the freedom to actually be themselves and the pride they feel by leaning into who they were intended to be. This is the driving force behind United Child Actors Network and my passion for helping young creatives, because oftentimes these are the very children who are bullied in school for being different. And words are used to harm them. Through this process, we give children the power over words so no one can use them as weapons against them. Just like my kids calling me bossy has no effect on me because I know I can be bossy. And simply by having that awareness, no one can use that against me now. In this video, I am going to give you an abbreviated version of what Sam did for me and what Ken and I duplicated in our in-person workshops for kids. My hope is that this is incredibly eye-opening for you to see who your child is and how they can use their unique personality for real, grounded, authentic auditions. Because that's what casting directors are looking for: authenticity. Those who can act effortlessly are your Oscar winners. And oftentimes, if you look them up online in an interview about their work, you'll find that they're not much different off camera than they are when they're portraying a character on set. This is an actor that is living in their most authentic self and sharing their creative gift with the masses in the most simple way. But being yourself isn't easy when you don't take the time to know who you are, and if no one teaches you or shows you the portal into what others see. But that's what I want to do for your child right now, because there's nothing worse than hearing that you have to pretend to be someone else in order to be successful. Imagine telling your child with each audition that they have to be different than they were the time before they stepped in front of the camera. It's confusing and a recipe for disaster. These kids don't stick with acting. They become frustrated and self-conscious with their talent. Instead, we're going to teach your child how to be self-empowered with the gifts they already have that are unique to them and them alone. No one else can be your child, no matter how hard they try. So the point of this exercise is to discover your child's distinctive personality, how to use it for standout auditions, and how they can begin to walk through life more freely, having a better understanding of how others perceive them and how to use that to their benefit. Let's get started. First, you're going to need to print off the downloadable PDF that goes along with this lesson, or simply grab a pen and paper. Then I want you to write down the first adjective that comes to mind when describing your child and place it in the left cloud above where it says essence, or simply write this on the left side of your paper if you're not using the pre-printed download. I don't want you to think too long or hard about this question. Just think about it as if a stranger asked you about your child and you had to say, "Oh, I love my child. They are so," and then fill in the blank with this adjective. This is a trait that they have down to their bones. They own it. Then repeat this process with others who know your child. Ask them for their adjective. The other parent, their siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, teachers, coaches. And I want you to start comparing trends of the words that you start to receive. If you want to expand your search, ask for 3 adjectives. It's totally up to you. But 9 times out of 10, and honestly 10 times out of 10, you're going to see many of the words repeat, or at least be very close synonyms of each other. Meaning, if you wrote silly for your child and their grandparent wrote down funny, those are similar personality traits. You're seeing the same thing in your child. Compassion to empathetic, quick-witted to intelligent, shy to reserved. You're going to start notice a trend in how others perceive your child. And once you have those words, you can start to look at all the ones or one that repeats the most. These are the traits that casting directors are going to see right off the bat when your child enters a room or before they even open their mouths on a taped audition. Because casting directors have an uncanny ability to perceive essences. Let me give you an example to better explain. I did this process for my daughter Skylar, and the words innocent, childlike, and wholesome all came back to me. It suddenly became very clear that Skylar was being perceived as the girl next door. To this day, even as a young adult, her friends still tease her about how she looks so innocent, and oftentimes she's treated as such. The essence doesn't leave as your child gets older. So how does that help me or her in the audition process? Strangely enough, she was already booking before we did this process. And what we found out was that almost every one of the roles she booked was a victim of some sort. What trait do victims often possess in television and film? Innocence, vulnerability, wholesomeness. It was another eye-opening moment for us as an acting family. Unbeknownst to us, she was already leaning into her authenticity and not even knowing that she was doing it. A compliment, sure, but once she realized the power of knowing, It allowed her and I to really explore all those different roles that she could potentially play. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Earlier, I said I began to show you the spectrum of my personality. What does that mean? A spectrum is much like a rainbow. So I'm using that analogy. Hence the PDF in front of you if you printed off the accompanying sheet to this video. If I own control, that means I own all the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is chaos, and everything in between. That's where I found all of those different roles I could potentially play. For Skylar, that meant that she owned vulnerability all the way over to strength. We started looking at her auditions differently and seeing how we could make a very strong choice on how a character could be played based on her spectrum. And guess what? She started booking even more. And one of her lead roles in the film Blood is a full character arc from victim to survivor. When she booked that role, it was really a full circle moment for us because we saw that we were in line with what casting directors were seeing in her. And when you can align who your child is with what casting directors see, that's a winning combination every time in the world of acting. Even if it means your child didn't book the specific role they auditioned for, you begin to build a brand for your child. And casting directors start to learn who your child is and which characters they can play. Keeping their essence consistent is crucial in building longevity in the acting world. So now let's get back to your child. I want you to take the adjective you wrote down earlier and write the exact opposite in the right cloud above where it says opposite. If you're not working from the PDF, simply write this on the right-hand side of the page. If it was passionate, maybe now it's nonchalance. If it was sarcastic, maybe now it's sincerity. Use a thesaurus and get as specific as you can for your child. And this is important. We want to be very careful when presenting positive and negative words to our children regarding their personalities. We're not telling them that these are positive traits of your personality and these are the negatives. These are words we're using to create a spectrum of roles for your child that they can use as tools within their acting tool belt. I would never refer to my daughter as a victim. Quite the contrary, because she lives her life on the opposite side of that spectrum with strength and confidence. But by understanding that she can tap into the other side is a valuable acting tool. My youngest daughter, Ariel, has an essence of intelligence. The opposite of that is stupid or unintelligent. I would never refer to her as such because she lives fully on the other end of the spectrum. But guess what? She, along with other characters who have intelligence as their essence, can play some of the funniest dim-witted characters around. Make it fun for them because acting should be fun.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Ariel's Toy Time Musical Extravaganza! You can't even sing. Yes, I can. La 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 la!
Now, above your child's adjective on the left, their essence word, I want you to start writing all the synonyms that closely relate to that word that describe your child. Again, use a thesaurus. Then repeat this process on the opposite word on the right. Keep writing until you feel you have a good spectrum and representation of your child. Then start writing all the roles you can see them playing with the spectrum you created. Hopefully, you're starting to see all the unique and beautiful traits that your child possesses. And each one of them was given specifically for them to share with the world because that's what the universe needs. That's why it was given to them. Imagine Whitney Houston never sang a song, or Steven Spielberg decided not to direct movies, or Mother Teresa decided not to devote her life to others. They tapped into their gifts and by doing so became the most authentic version of themselves and ultimately shared their gifts with others and touched the lives of millions in many different ways. So the more authentic your child can be, the more they're serving others. I'm not the first one to say that acting is a service. It's a beautiful gift that creatives give in order to help others through their lives, to help them laugh,
chip while the mayor demanded that the chip as a response to allegations of I'm sorry, I seem to have something stuck in my...
Cry.
I miss you, Ginger. If there's anything you need, I won't be far away.
Grieve or celebrate. And the more your child works with their own adjectives, the better your child is going to become in their work, because they're going to understand who they are and what they bring to the scene by simply being themselves. And casting directors are going to begin to take notice, because their scenes are going to be grounded and authentic, exactly what casting is looking for. And what starts to happen is you begin to create an identity for your child that is easy to see and understand. So even when you start to receive those auditions that you feel maybe aren't a good match for your child's personality, stay true to their spectrum. Because a casting director is going to say, that was a unique choice. It doesn't necessarily work for this role, but it may be perfect for this one. Let me send them that audition. And remember, don't go into any audition expecting your child to book. Present each audition as a performance opportunity to your child, because the booking part is out of your hands. I mentioned previously in the course, the best actor doesn't necessarily book the role. The most appropriate actor does. The one who looks like the parents who are already booked before the audition went out for the child role. Or the one who is local and production doesn't have to pay to fly in the child and their parent. Or the one where the director worked previously with the child and wants to work with them again. All of these things are completely out of your control. So teach your child to focus on the authenticity of their craft so they're proud of the work they're producing. And know that acting is a marathon. If they want to continue in this world for years to come, protecting their mental health and confidence is key. Booking should never dictate self-worth or happiness. And we're going to get into so much more of this in the self-care section. We've all heard horror stories of child actors, and a lot of them, more specifically, a lot of their parents, did not have the tools I'm teaching you right now to have them thrive in an industry that is filled with rejection and disappointment, an industry that tells you to be more of this and less of that, and then the next week tells you the exact opposite. Your child needs to know who they are and be strong in that conviction. By having this one basic tool of knowing who they are as a person and what traits they were given to share with the world is beyond empowering. Most adult actors don't have this mastered and try to fit into whatever script they're given instead of making that script work for them. Sam Christensen used to say, don't look at a script and wonder what the character should be. Look at the script and say, this is who the character will become when I step into the role. As your child starts or continues to audition, use this spectrum and see which adjectives you can pull from that best match the character description on the script. Look for synonyms and antonyms. And once you choose a word, think of a time when they felt that adjective strongly. If you choose silly, make them remember a silly time before they tape so that they have that energy. If you choose disappointment, think of a time when they felt that feeling before you start taping. And remember, on the emotional roles, we want to make sure that our young creatives can go there safely. I always tell my daughters and students that an audition is like a ride. We're going to get in, we're going to buckle up, we're going to go through all the twists and turns, and then we're going to come to a complete stop, unbuckle, and get off the ride and go on with our day. Finally, please share this information with your child's agent or manager if they have representation or when seeking representation. They will be so grateful that you perfectly understand where your child fits and which roles they can play. You're helping them do their job in booking your child and ultimately getting them paid. At the start of each year, I make sure that I email all of my children's representatives as well as my own to give them a refresher on which roles I tend to book or will likely book and what are our goals for the year. It's a great way to keep everyone on the same page and moving your child's career forward. And before we end this lesson, let me leave you with this. As we are teaching our children to embrace their own unique authenticity, let us also remind them to embrace other children's unique authenticity. This is an opportunity for your child to lead by example and show others what true acceptance looks like. After all, actors must be empathetic and understanding to better encompass the humanity that they're trying to convey on camera. The better the human, the better the actor.